So for our final session, some of the speakers are already up front. So our speakers for this session are Ms. Atsuko Okuda, who is the Chief of ICT and Disaster Risk Reduction Division of UNESCAP. And we have Mr. Kondo Masanori, the Deputy Secretary General at Asia Pacific Telecommunity. We have Mr. Jigme Tenzing, the Director of the Department of IT and Telecom of the Ministry of Information and Communications in Bhutan. And we also have Mr. Osama Manzar, founder of the Digital Empowerment Foundation. So this last session will synthesize the overall thematic discussions of the summit and tackle the future of alternative and complementary last-mile access networks in the Asia-Pacific, and also the role they play in achieving broadband for all. Our moderator for this roundtable discussion is Mr. Naveed, the Regional Development Manager of the Internet Society.
Thanks, Isabel. Welcome back, everyone. I know some of you want to go out for shopping. Bangkok is a good destination for shopping. There are a lot of sales going on, so we're going to be short and crisp. And I'll straightforward go to my panelist, and I'll ask Atsuko-san to please tell us about how SCAP looks into the discussions, especially from the past 3 days and today when we are talking about this alternate last mile solution, and how all these discussions fit into the broadband for all, which is one of the key objectives under the APIS.
Thank you, Naveed, and thank you very much for all the participants' active engagement for the past 4 days. If I can just summarize for those participants who just joined today, on Monday and Tuesday, we had the Asia-Pacific Information Superhighway Steering Committee meeting, which is based on the intergovernmental mandate and reviewed and updated each other on some of the activities that we took along the framework that we agreed. And I believe that that provided the basis and framework for yesterday's discussion as well as today's discussions. So for me, what is really important is to connect the dots that when in SCAP, we normally work specifically with member countries, but I think the beauty of this meeting was that we had different stakeholders on board, and now I believe that we established this fantastic and wonderful connections among ourselves. So I believe that this meeting was very valuable from that point, not only from the substantive point of view, but shared different views and connect to each other. Now, I believe that what is needed for us moving forward is really to discuss the way forward, any suggestions and proposals, and how we can transform and translate the ideas that we shared for the past 4 days into concrete activities, initiatives, and follow-up. And this is where I hope to hear from you any suggestions, way forward, if there is any group of participants, countries, and organizations want to come together and propose something. Now is the chance. So I look forward to listening to your active and constructive suggestions. Thank you.
Excellent. Yes, I totally agree. I think this is the opportunity for the participants, and I really like the comments made by Mahabir ji in the first session about, the opening the arms, that he's available to collaborate and exchange any experiences with any interested party. So perhaps this is the time, and I'll of course get to the participants in the room as well on asking if they are interested to collaborate more on this particular issue with SCAP under the APIS umbrella, and also of course with the Internet Society. I'll turn now to Osama, and I think Osama is one of those people in this room who has perhaps the most experience in terms of community networks and how they have evolved over the years. So Osama, if you can please shed some light on talking 10 years back when you all started this work, and now where we are in 10 years, what were the the positive sides of it, and what are some fears? And I saw that you also told us that perhaps community networks are finishing up. So can you tell us more about it? I mean, how do you see the future of these community-led initiatives in Asia Pacific?
So I think Naveed certainly wants me to quote ISOC, because with them we had started this story in 2009. So that's a plug-in. But I think 10 years before, when we had started experimenting community networks, and many more years, the most focus was access, and infrastructure. But if we see what access has brought to us in the last 3-4 years, the discussion is mostly around data, and content, and of course, if we are just around the corner in the last 1 year, then social media, and then toxicity around social media, and how there is more fear of misinformation and fake news and so on and so forth. So if we see this entire journey, and if we see how community networks has progressed, apart from the fact that people have highlighted in the morning various sessions that the attention of community networks as an alternative networks or a last mile connectivity network has really caught eyes of many kind of people, and many people are taking it very, very seriously. That's a positive part of it. So I drew a little diagram on my paper saying that what are the challenges. I think the big challenge is that, and there is an opportunity in those challenge also, that it has not been considered last mile access. And when we say last mile access, it's also translate into last mile access in remote and poor and underserved communities, because last mile access is there in all houses, in all places, but in urban areas it goes, but in remote areas it doesn't go because it's expensive, there is no ROI. But earlier the ROI was most based on infrastructure, but I believe now suddenly the ROI is now converting into data. So you are putting up infrastructure because you think that the data will generate you funds. So there is a good news also that telcos might go there, or private sector might go there, and there will be more access. So that's the challenge part. And thing. The other challenging part is that I don't think we have been able to convert community networks into out-of-the-box solution. So it is still seen as techie's job, or the job driven by passionate people for some, and mostly are examples. So even if we start drawing on the map, we can still count that these are few community networks which are successful. These are community networks which has great story, but there will be very little one which can be seen as that can be converted into a replicable model and the scalable model and all that. And there is no harm in realizing that if you put infrastructural cost by philanthropy or some other, most of them can be converted into a sustainable model, because that's the initial one which doesn't go into, which is actually the bigger investment when you start anything like that. The third part is that we have also not been able to create a bottom-up forces of the capacity building of lots of people who can become technology oriented to take care of the networks and run on their own. And the last challenge is that we have not been able to relate it very strongly into services. For example, if we say all the subjects of SDGs, each one of them is a service. Each one of them is a developmental and social developmental indices. And if we link it to that, then there is a revenue model in that, because you convert it into a content delivery for the revenue, and therefore you can do it. For example, that all the networks that we did with ISOC in the last 10 years, most of them are running up after the initial investment. But if we calculate those ROI that is happening in terms of investment in the initial time, it may not be sustainable now, but on a daily basis it may be sustainable. So it's very important to learn from there. So the good news is that we need to make it more out-of-box oriented. We have to relate it to services and content. We have to make it run by the community, and because it is supposed to be for the community. And I also feel, this may be my personal belief, is that the more and more you are going to be internet connected, the more and more you are going to be subject to privacy issues, attack issues, misinformation and all that. But if you have your own network, you can manage your own network to safeguard yourself, like a gated community or something like that, that could be. So can it be a decentralized database oriented network also? So those are some of the suggestions that I am saying. And the last thing is that, I say that, community network is started, internet is supposed to be people's network, but now I don't think internet is now being seen as a people's network. So community networks can regain internet for the people, so can community networks save internet and give it in the hands of the people?
Excellent points. I remember a story back from Pakistan when we were doing some community network, and so the people used to actually travel like 3 kilometers to go to a road and where they can get a 3G signal, because they have to make a Skype call to their relatives who are in Dubai. And I remember when we were talking with this person where we wanted to put our antenna, and when we told him that once this in connectivity comes to you, at least you don't have to travel to 3 kilometers and you can place those Skype calls with your uncle in Dubai, and there it was. So I think it's beyond the connectivity, and there are a lot of empowerment and sustainable development angles linked with community networks or these last mile access solution. I'll turn now to Kondo-san. Kondo-san, from the APT perspective, since there are so many discussions that APT leads in terms of regulators and policymakers throughout the year, and I've seen that over the past at least 2 years there have been attention given by APT, realizing that to connect the half of the rest of the world, we have to give more attention to the last mile connectivity solution. So how do you see this can fit into the discussions, and what do you see the perceptions from the regulatory or policy angle?
Okay, thank you, Naveed. And first of all, on behalf of APT, I'd like to appreciate once again for ISOC for inviting APT and me for this event. And APT, as an international organization specialized in ICT field in this region, we are very much conducting many activities, not only like a project or last 1 mile connection, but also like many training courses as well. So with regard to the last mile connection, we are very, as APT, I'm very happy to hear that the example of Nepal, which we supported in 2015, just after the earthquake of Nepal. So when we heard about the news of Nepal, we immediately started our discussion how we can support as APT for member countries, in this case Nepal. So at the time, of course, we contacted now Mr. Pun is very we knew that Mr. Pun is very famous in this field, so we decided to communicate with him through the Nepali government, because always government is our focal point. So today, first of all, I'm very happy to hear how the project was successful in Nepal. Now, having said that, yes, in the past 40 years, we have conducted several projects. And as I mentioned, I think yesterday, during the ITU session, that some of the projects, it went well, but others, not necessarily we can say it was successful. And having heard today's discussion, it's very intriguing for me and very informative, because while I'm listening the discussion, especially first this morning, and also I'm still in the process of digestion, I'm thinking, while I'm thinking the issues or challenge for APT, how we can implement those last 1 mile connection project, this is my idea, current idea to share with you. I think I'm thinking that we need to check where the bottleneck is. If it is a supply side, government can start to implement the infrastructure because there is a demand already. So once you have an infrastructure network, you can have a project successful. But if the bottleneck is demand side, suppose, I think this part is questioned by Mr. Aizu. After we install those infrastructure, whether user really start to use it or not. So if the issue is about demand, bottleneck is demand side, what we can do. So those are challenges we need to consider. So in those aspects, it's very informative for us to listen the discussion in this morning. So how to define or how to find the existence of bottleneck and where it is, and if it is a supply side, how we can solve the issue, and if it is demand side. I think demand side is more difficult compared to the issue of supply side. Demand side, for instance, one of the example we faced as a challenge was that it was an e-health project. In order to reach to remote area where healthcare service is not sufficient, so there was a proposal that if we install the infrastructure, then they can enjoy the better healthcare services. So we did that. But actually, those people in healthcare services on the ground, they are busy. They need to do their own daily work to prepare a report and so on. They don't have enough time to learn or to have a training how to use ICT, and for them it's just a headache. We don't need it. So here again internally in APT we explicitly distinguish what is a need and what is a want. In this case, they don't want. It is not their need. It is not their need. If we install like an e-healthcare, if we ask whether you want, they will say yes, I want. But it doesn't necessarily mean that they need it. Because, as I said, they are too busy to implement their own work. So those are challenges and those are experiences we had, and I'd like to mention that this is our past experience. We are not implementing in such a way currently. So we are thinking, for instance, to still we at the ideal base. We may establish a kind of like a committee to involve all party stakeholders to discuss the way how we implement it. This is the if some of you attended yesterday's meeting, this is the way I mentioned the sense of participation, the sense of a stakeholders approach. So this is very important in order to let them feel that you are the owner, the ownership of the project, and so on. So these are lessons we learned in the past, and also the factors I'm still digesting from today's discussion.
Thank you, Kondo-san. Ownership, I think this is important point because, again, I can recall various projects led by the governments in the past. The telecenter is a classic example. I mean, I know there have been projects where the governments have put up a fax machine, a computer, a printer, inside a rural place so people can use it. But if you see the project, after 6 months, those equipment were gone actually. They were no longer being used. Some of them were actually sold because there was no ownership, and it was only a few experts going into a field and giving those communities something that perhaps was not actually what they wanted. So ownership, I think it's a critical point, and we have heard this as well. It has to be by the people, for the people. Osama, can you shed some light on community radio networks? Because I think that's also a substance that perhaps is linked with what we are trying to discuss and how they have embraced community participation, especially in countries like India.
Actually, we should talk to Nepal as far as the community radio is concerned, because they are the world's largest community, one of the largest community radio network country in terms of the sustainable also. But what I would like to highlight is that community radio model has three components. One is that it is usually run by not-for-profit organizations. The second is that they know how to build content using community and broadcasting, which is and mostly when you do community, then it is related to the need of the people. So it actually highlights the most important part of the social strata and the social development of any country where the internet is missing or the network is missing. So if you embed, and the third is from the regulatory perspective, at least in India, all the community radios have towers, given by the government, which actually takes care of one of the very basic infrastructure of investment, and also taking care of a regulatory requirement of not building more than 5 meters of tower without compliance. So that's very interesting for community radio, and there are about a couple of hundred community radios at least in India, and of course hundreds of them in Nepal, can use the infrastructure for content development and to build community network on that. And we have been doing this for the last 3 years with Community Network Exchange that we started with a platform to propagate. But what most importantly I would like to highlight is in every country, not-for-profit organizations are dime a dozen and hundreds of them who work in rural areas. If we push community network to build capacity of those not-for-profit organizations, then they can deploy community networks in their own areas, and they are mostly in rural areas. They can actually build up, help in building up scale. So from that perspective, it is very, very interesting that one NGO is halfway through having a community radio, the other NGOs are halfway through in terms of working with communities. So you have to bring the network there.
Now I'll ask a friend from Bhutan, Mr. Jigme. Tell us about Bhutan. It's one of those countries where the geography is very interesting. Like Nepal, we have like 83% mountains and 17% flatland, and in Bhutan it's like 80-20%. And in that kind of geography, it's not easy to deploy infrastructure. And I know that there was an ISP named Nano, and they actually made an experimental TV white space network in a rural side of Bhutan. What are the objectives of the government, especially from the regulatory and policy perspective? And I also heard that there is a lot of investment happening on the fiber side. Is it to make your backhaul stronger, or you're also thinking to extend it to the last mile?
Okay, thank you. I must apologize, my voice is a little off because I've been a little under the weather, but thank you for that question. To start off with the TV white spaces, the idea was essentially to look at alternative technologies to look at how we can actually expand last mile access. So I think TV white spaces, we looked at, alternative armored fiber, many options were considered, and I think it's still being considered, to see what is the most cost-effective way of extending connectivity to the last mile. I think in Bhutan we are also we are challenged with our geographical, limitations. We have a lot of mountains, but we are quite lucky in the sense that we are a small country, and I think the beauty of being a small country is we can collaborate. Like one such example is we collaborated with our power infrastructure providers, to co-deploy our fiber optic backbone infrastructure on their power transmission lines, which dramatically reduced the cost of actually deploying fiber across the country. So we actually have fiber going down to every district, fiber going down to every blocks of villages, and this is exactly the infrastructure that we leverage to take connectivity to our community networks. Sustainability is one of the key challenges that we have in Bhutan. I mean, our population density approximately is about 19 people per square kilometer, and concentrations in urban centers are a lot more. Rural centers are far sparser. The government has invested in establishing community centers in almost every blocks of villages. The usage in those centers it doesn't keep the power on, let's just say. I mean, we're talking about maybe 10 people accessing the community centers in a day. So cost is extremely high, but I think we look at these networks as a platform for providing equitable access to services for all citizens, and that's why the government is actually subsidizing it. And I think there's going to be a lot of debate on sustainability, in its inherent sense, or whether it should be subsidized by government and all of that. I wouldn't go into that, but ultimately, we consider this infrastructure as a basic facility for citizens, and we can actually leverage it to provide a lot of our government services. So following the establishment of these community networks, we've actually invested in essentially having all our government services transformed into online services, so it makes it much easier for citizens to avail it. Of course, there are limitations in terms of digital identity and all of the platforms that we need to build on to make it much more accessible to citizens. But all in all, we believe that this is a basic necessity for services to be delivered, and that's why the subsidy is being looked at by the government. Thanks.
Okay, good to know that. Kondo-san, I want to take your perspective on the ISP. I remember if we go like 15, 20 years ago, there were like ISPs and ISPs. I mean, because at that time, perhaps we were not into this 3G and 4G networks, which are led by mobile operators. There was a huge ISP market. Pakistan, we had 122 ISP licenses. Today, we have only 4 left. And that actually perhaps has also impacted, those small and medium investors who were limiting their services only to local loop, So those were those last mile access providers in many markets in Asia Pacific. How do you see this discussion that we had today trying to bring back that market situation where we have those small and medium enterprises, or someone who cannot invest huge as big mobile operators, but perhaps there is an opportunity for those people through this last mile complementary solution? And also, what is your opinion on one of the comments that I heard from our friends from NICTA and PNG about opening up the public funding opportunities like USO to these people who perhaps are interested to provide connectivity to their communities?
Yes, that's a I think a question as a government, any government is trying to answer in the past 2 or 3 decades in terms of competition and so-called fair competition. So on one hand, if just so-called laissez-faire, just let market do anything, then naturally, if business doesn't benefit from a certain area, you just don't go. It's up to them. Then. So as a government, you always consider what is a fair competition, and the purpose of fair competition is, number one, try to expand the coverage, and number 2, reduce the price for consumers. So on one hand, the market is not perfect. Of course, there is a failure of market, and also government needs to consider the public welfare. So there comes the USO, Universal Service Fund, through which government can expand and sometimes subsidize through the operators, and sometimes just let local governments do those like infrastructure establishment. So having those understanding, I think let's say number of businesses or companies, I don't think we will go back to the 10 years ago. The situation or challenges or issues for policymaker is how to stimulate the competition based on the current situation. So one of the ways is by how the question is how we can utilize the USO in such a way that those companies can compete in the field of even rural area. So here there's no one answer which fits all. So every single country needs to consider what would be the solution for them.
Okay, I'll now look to some questions, some comments. Okay, I have 2. Nuan, please.
I mean, you were talking about about the geographic challenges of rolling out networks, but I just saw that Bhutan is like 100% electrified, and I'm assuming you have challenges of running cables. Of course, your generation sources can be distributed, right? Different lakes providing. I'd just like to know how come if that can work, why not? We can roll out fiber and stuff like that. What are the different challenges?
So in terms of rolling out fiber, I mean, we are leveraging the power infrastructure as much as possible. I mean, wherever we have the high voltage lines, we use OPGW, and even on the distribution level, we are using the ADSS, fiber lines. I guess some of the challenges that we have with working with the power sector is specifically with regard to the concerns that they have with using armored fiber on their power lines, because they're very concerned about interference. They are concerned about potential electric shocks, etc. So therefore, we have to use a non-armored fiber, and that we have issues with the reliability of those fibers. Electricity coverage is essentially 100%. I wouldn't say it's fully 100%. I mean, we have some non-grid, places where we have some locally deployed, solar and other alternative power sources. So those are unconnected from the grid, and in those cases we still have to use satellite for connectivity.
Yes, Mr. Pervez.
I still have to, same topic, fiber through power lines. Wherever you have used fiber, I think this is it's an excellent way of distributing or taking fiber to the home even with the help of electric lines, and I think it's being tested and tried in many places. So I'm interested to know what has not worked, that you are not very positive about it. There are technologies nowadays. One is, of course, ground conductor is embedded with the fiber. The other technology is that it's wrapped around the ground, fiber is wrapped around the ground conductor, and others. So what has not worked? Why has it not worked? Or you're not too happy about it?
I guess we're not happy because we don't have fiber to the home. It has worked in the sense that we do have, our backhaul is pretty much solid, but other than that, I think. I'm sorry, maybe when I was talking, I gave the sense that we are unhappy with the, co-deployment. Actually, it's one of the successes. The fact that we are able to actually leverage the power infrastructure to reduce the cost of deployment of fiber. Personally, I'm not happy because I don't have fiber to the house, but.
This is something which can be used in backhaul as well as last mile. So this is an excellent way of going about it.
Yeah, I remember there was a time when broadband over power lines, which it just became so much interesting phenomenon. Everyone was talking about broadband over power line, and then somehow we couldn't see it as a sustainable solution. Talat, you have a question?
Thanks so much, Naveed. My question is also related to the issue of infrastructure sharing. I come from Kyrgyzstan. It's also a small, landlocked and a mountainous country. So in addition for difficult terrain, the climate is also a big issue. So for example, our mountainous villages are half the year are covered by snow. So you only have a few months to lay your fiber optic. So I think Bhutan has a good experience of working together with Ministry of Energy of using electricity. In Kyrgyzstan, there is a lot of investment going to road construction, hundreds of millions of dollars, but we haven't been able to convince the Transport Ministry, why don't you put along the road duct so that in the future telecom companies could put their fibers on. So maybe our delegate from Bhutan or colleagues here could share how do you incentivize other agencies to share their infrastructure, because I think the stick method, when you administratively tell them share, doesn't always work. So I think there has to be some kind of incentive for the Energy Ministry, for the Transport Ministry to share with the telecom industry.
Thank you. It's an excellent question, and this is one of the questions that we have been tackling at UNESCAP, because as you know, we have a transport division as well as energy division, so we believe that this is a perfect entry point for us to promote this idea. In fact, UNESCAP has been implementing a project on co-deployment with among the ICT, road and energy to see where exactly the opportunities are and what are the challenges. And in fact, Kyrgyzstan is one of the project countries. So at the moment, we are conducting a sub-regional assessment and we are developing a national report. So so that we can pinpoint how we can facilitate this process of inter-ministerial cooperation and collaboration to make it happen. In fact, we had a similar discussion with your ministry participants that the same concerns were shared. So I believe that this is a very timely and important topic to extend the fiber optics along the passive infrastructure. I just want to share one more thing. We have conducted an extensive studies on, number one, the benefits and challenges. We, together with the National Information Society Agency of the Republic of Korea, did an actual case study in Myanmar and found out that the co-deployment could reduce the cost by 53 or 57%. I don't remember because there were many numbers, but it was a significant cost savings if we go along with the road. And if I can also touch base on the case of co-deployment along the power grid in Bhutan, what is really important for us to know, by the way, we prepared a report on the case of Bhutan using the power grid to co-deploy. So anyone interested in this topic, please visit our website and read the report. But what is very interesting about the Bhutan's case is that the cable, if I'm not mistaken, from the report, is owned by the Power Corporation of Bhutan, and the telecom operator lease from that. So there is a very interesting governance, management, and investment structure that worked very well in the case of Bhutan, and that allowed the country to provide the services in a very affordable way. So if you look at and compare the cost of access, Bhutan is one of the lowest in the sub-region. So I hope that I didn't misrepresent the excellent initiative and innovation in the case of Bhutan.
Yeah, so like I was saying, I think one of the advantages of being a small country is we don't have a lot of complexities to deal with, especially when working with other agencies. And with regard to the co-deployment, you're right, Atsuko-san, except that fiber is actually owned by the government. It's not owned by the power company. We actually realized that there was a lot of redundant infrastructure that was being invested in by both the power company as well as the telcos, and so we nationalized it. We actually paid the the power company as well as the telecom operators, and we nationalized the fiber, but it's operated and managed by the power company itself, because it actually rides on their infrastructure, and they're very paranoid about who gets access to their infrastructure. The other thing, I think, with regard to convincing other agencies is I think dialogue. Ultimately, you have to talk to them, and the benefits of ICT is when you look at it holistically across sectors. I think you have to look at it as a whole of government initiative, and you have to make the case to government that it makes much more sense when you do it in that manner. And it's very difficult for the power company to argue against that. If you actually have enough dialogue. By the way, we haven't actually done co-deployment on our roads. It's something that we would also like to maybe explore in the future. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you. Just, I'd like to add one point with regard to infrastructure sharing. This has been a long policy issues, and basically, if you try to coordinate with, if you are telecom operators and try to coordinate with electricity companies, they need to discuss maintenance cost and who is responsibility. And actually, there is a cost, so-called transaction cost, named by Ronald Coase, an economist. So this transaction cost would be high. And those incumbent people are always conservative in that sense. So to some extent, they overestimate the transaction cost, while new entrants underestimate the transaction cost, how much coordination cost would need in order to coordinate, especially in the maintenance phases. So it's always, and I think will be a policy issue in the future as well, especially when we deploy 5G and other new technologies.
Yes, Azerbaijan.
Hello, everybody. My name is Emil Ahmadov. I represent Ministry of Transport, Communication and High Technology of the Republic of Azerbaijan. Why I'm taking the floor regarding the issue raised by the representative of Kyrgyzstan, just I want to share Azerbaijan's experience. Of course, it's very difficult sometimes to find a consensus between the relevant stakeholders, I mean the Ministry of Transport and even ICTs, but I, as a representative both emerged, we have such a practice. We adopted the strategic roadmap in Azerbaijan on the strategic development of our economy, which includes the development of ICT and transport. And within this program, we have relevant state body which entrusted to implement. They have a deadlines and for laying fiber optic cables within the highways and railways. And so far, just for information, since 2004 years, we spent it for general our transport infrastructure for renewal, $25 billion. It includes railroad, highways, and within this program, within the framework, so far we have in total length approximately 2,000 kilometers of highway with fiber optic lines, and the relevant work is underway, but general the length of our highway is the roads is approximately 80,000 kilometers. Of course, a lot of work should be done. Even I have some graphs with me, and when it comes to railway, yes, here we started recently the relevant work. The total length of our railway is 2,000 kilometers, but approximately 520 kilometers has already with fiber optic cables, and now within the program of turning the Azerbaijan, we have a digital hub program, our Azerbaijan Railways, which is not under our subordination, our Ministry of Transport, a separate state body, with our Azer Telecom, they continue to implement these projects of flying fiber optic cables. I mean, each country, of course, has its own practice, but in Azerbaijan case, as I've mentioned, it's a strategic roadmap which have relevant tasks for each, but mostly it's I would say financed by the state budget. Of course, within the participation of relevant financing organizations like ADB and others. This is just for information.
If I can also add to what Azerbaijan was saying, we also mapped out which country have been implementing this railway as well as road co-deployment. And actually, because of that, we have an Indian representative, Railtel. Just to quick addition, as you know, Grameenphone has been very successful in Bangladesh, and again, I don't want to misrepresent the case of Bangladesh, but they were getting the services from Railtel because the Railtel was co-deploying the fiber along the railroad. So it is not an issue which is disconnected from community networking. In fact, if this can be applied and possibly replicated and scaled up, that could open a lot of opportunities for community networking. So, and also just if I can also add one more point, which was shared by AIIB representative on Monday. if I'm not mistaken, he also said that this co-deployment is really attractive for investment simply because it's cost efficient. So the reason why AIIB decided to come was because we have some initiatives which makes this infrastructure development more cost efficient. So I hope that moving forward, this is something that member countries would consider wherever applicable and possible. Thank you.
Do we have any other question? We have two more. So before that, Osama, quickly, so when internet comes to these unserved and rural places through these last mile connectivity solutions, does it impact the urbanization as well? What's your perspective?
Yeah, it does. Of course, it's a cross-mixing because you access content from outside, but it certainly also allows you to generate your own content. Unfortunately, urbanization is also synonymous with development, so community network that way is a very strong tool to take development to the people rather than bring people to the development. And I would say that yes, it's a very plus point for community networks or community-oriented any kind of connectivity infrastructure or link infrastructure to take it to the people, because even if you look at it from climate change perspective, migration is one of the big challenges.
Excellent. Wakas and then Talant.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Moderator. We've been discussing about community networks all day long, and we have seen practical examples of successful community network projects. But we've also heard about many projects that could not achieve what they were intended for. I was just wondering if there is actually a flaw in the feasibility that is being done before the project is going to be implemented. When you select the area, when you take into the factors that where do we have to actually deploy this network, what kind of feasibility study is done by those who are going to do it. Of course, it's a community-driven project, but then again, somebody has to fund it. So I know that there is a guide available by Internet Society on how to build a community network, yes, but is there any guide, any learning curve, any best practice from which we can learn and develop a guide on how to actually do the study before you're going to deploy a community network in a community, in an area, and how can you engage with the end users before actually going there and deploying this stuff, what kind of demand they have, and what kind of area, what kind of factors should be taken into account before going for this.
I remember when we did the first community network, we didn't do any feasibility study or feasibility, baseline or whatever. Gradually, we learned that, feasibility study is the most important part before you deploy, which is from the terrain, from physicality, from the backhaul connectivity to the infrastructure that you need. Many a times, hilly regions are considered to be the most difficult terrain, but they also sometimes becomes very cheap because the natural height gives you line of sight between the valleys, so there are many such issues that come in between. Unfortunately, most of the time when we raise fund for community networks or anything, feasibility study hardly falls into the whole plan, and there is then experience beyond feasibility and deployment that you face only. I mean, for example, the video that you were seeing here, which was in the salt desert of India, we had started the project there with various connectivity. It was a flat area, but it looks flat, but when you do feasibility, it's Earth is oval. So, when you have long distance, then obviously you are not going to get the line of sight. And where there was a backhaul, there was no tower. And then there was only tower that was available with a police station. And police station said that, yes, we are ready to give you, but since it is a border area, you can't deploy it because how do we keep an eye on you? So we gave them the connectivity free of cost to use themselves and be part of it. So there are many things that come, and then suddenly it got down because many a times when there is a security issue and all that, they will say that please stop it and things like that. But so the crux of the story is that one is that of course feasibility, and the second is that of course natural experience while deployment, which is again a case that you cannot pre-imagine or plan, and all that goes into infrastructure building, which is unaccounted, and that face a lot of problem besides bureaucratic, of course.
Yeah, I just wanted to say, just to take a different perspective to it. I think there's a lot of talk about sustainability, but ultimately we are investing in community centers as a means to access public services. So what is the alternative? The other alternative is you actually build physical infrastructure. You actually deploy public, servants in the communities. So what is the comparable investment required? I think we need to look at when you look at community networks, community centers, we have to also look at if you didn't have them, how would you provide services to your citizens in these remote areas? I think that's another perspective.
Yes. Namaste. My name is Girish. I'm from India, from an organization called Genestu. I would like to answer to my friend of Pakistan who just asked about what are the study that we can make before setting up or deploying the network or connectivity. We at Genestu are trying to work on offline networks. So if we establish a Wi-Fi mesh on the small community, like around 1 kilometer range or connecting 1,000 people around. So we are trying to work with school children to set up radio station only because today or tomorrow internet might definitely get connected. We are all trying to. So by that time, let the rural India shouldn't be, the rural people shouldn't be just as a consumers. There has to be a producer, there has to be so to prepare them how to make content, how to record and document their rituals, archive their cultural heritages. So these are the practices what we are trying in Genestu. In Halekote, it's a village 70 kilometers far away from Bangalore city. So by these kind of practices, at least we'll try to understand what exactly the other contents are still left over, which are not available in internet. Otherwise, just giving direct connectivity to them might also give an opportunity for them to explore the same thing. What we all are, we urbans are already connected and we are trying to. And parallelly, in the same time, we need to also talk about the problems with the people who are connected already to internet. Problem with the youngsters who are already connected to the internet and always on the smartphones, and we are all slightly looking into that, right? We need to parallelly try to educate them that when the internet comes, how and what are the things that, and at least a basic information to them, so that they will be very precise to know what exactly they want. In terms of personal security is nowadays a joke. Like nobody has a personal this thing. Privacy in the internet is no more. So in these factors, we need to put a light with the rural community where we are connecting. This is what my opinion is about.
Just want to add one more on what UNESCAP has been doing. We are working with Google to understand the mechanics and the impact of public Wi-Fi. And I don't want to put a spot on you, but I know that the Google station in India has been very successful. They established a public Wi-Fi at station using a Railtel's connectivity in over 600 stations. And what we were interested in is what kind of impact such public Wi-Fi, which is free of charge, have on people's lives. And some of the findings that we showed in May this year was really, truly revealing that people graduate from universities, people conduct e-commerce at stations using public Wi-Fi. So it really had life-changing opportunities right at the station. And another initiative that we showcased was Net Pracharat, that Thailand is expanding to remote and rural areas. So both initiatives were found extremely useful when we organized this side event at the margin of the UNESCAP Commission session. Would you like to add something on the India's?
In fact, this free Wi-Fi demand was there for a long time, but being a commercial organization, we were slightly apprehensive how we will bear the cost of internet bandwidth. That was one issue. Second issue was the security issue. If something wrong goes on, then who will be answerable? The first issue was addressed when we partnership with the Google. Then Google came forward. Then they did local peering and co-hosting in our locations. So the cost of internet bandwidth came down for us because mostly the content being used was on Facebook or Google platforms. So that helped us to take this decision. Secondly, the mandate came from the top of the government that, okay, you provide the Wi-Fi. We are with you. So once we got that mandate, then we also thought, okay, it is not my responsibility to take care of the security issue. It is the responsibility of security agencies to take care of that. I have provided the facility, and if something goes wrong, then security agencies are also equally answerable, more than me.
Very interesting. Okay, so we are, in fact, it's 4:30 as per my mobile watch. Any last thoughts, Osama, Kondo-san?
Yeah, I have two plugins. One is that we have developed a course for barefoot engineers. So anybody who would like to take it to national, international, regional, any level can convert it. It is available at lms.dfindia.org. It's in English, but we would like it to be converted into many more languages. It is audio-visual so that, localization is easy. And the second thing is also we would like to, with the support of ISOC and co-organizing partner and APC, we do annual meeting in Asia Pacific called Community Networks Exchange, where we bring many practitioners in India and take them to the field to have learning exchange. And, so that is something, it's called cnxapac.in, .org actually. And, so I would, so this is like, we are trying to take it to the scale as much as possible. At the moment, we run around 40 community networks in India, and we want to take it to as much as possible. And still in India, as far as India is concerned, more than 70% people are not connected, while 500 million smartphones have already gone into the hands of people. So, so paradoxical situation. So there are a lot of challenges and opportunity both.
I don't have anything to add, but I really want to appreciate this opportunity for all the participants and all the panelists for sharing their experience and knowledge and advice. And this is very informative, and I learned a lot. Thank you very much.
I would also like to take the opportunity to thank UNESCAP and ISOC for this wonderfully organized event. And lastly, I think I just wanted to end off with, although there was this whole debate about, we should not be concerned about what community networks are, accessed for, and entertainment and video essentially being the largest, bandwidth hogging, use case at the moment. But I think, at least personally, I believe that we need to look at some productive, use for this, for the network, for the community to actually, upskill themselves, give them better access to markets. And I think more needs to be done on how we can actually get our communities to use these networks in that direction, rather than actually, leveraging these networks to access videos for entertainment, etc. Thanks.
Okay, so Atsuko-san, you want to say some last words?
Thank you. I just want to add that this was a great opportunity, and I want to thank all the participants for their active participation and engagement. And we really count on you, because meeting cannot be just a presentation or discussion. Our success will be measured by your follow-up action and what happened after the meeting. So we really look forward to meeting all of you next August. But by that time, something will definitely happen, and we look forward to working with you to address some of these pain points, and we will find a common solution together. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much to my panelists. Thank you very much, participant. And I just add what Atsuko-san said. So one of the things that we're going to do is we're going to produce an outcome document that is going to, record all the key discussions that we had, and we'll share that through UNESCAP, of course. And also we're looking forward to invite interested member states and participants to join a working group that will discuss this moving further and come up with the action. So we don't want this just to be a discussion on this day, but rather see how we can, move ahead and step ahead to connect the unconnected. So once again, thank you so very much. Happy shopping, safe travels, and I'll pass it on to Isabel to conclude.
Yes. So on behalf of UNESCAP and the Internet Society, we would like to thank everyone for participating in today's summit. So everybody's inputs really made it a very interesting discussion, a very meaningful discussion. So we hope to be in touch with everybody, and thank you all, and enjoy the rest of your stay in Bangkok. So thank you again, and enjoy the rest of your stay in Bangkok.